Welcome everyone to the PYRESWAP show. Fantastic show today, here on Tuesday. And if I have an audibility check in the general chat here for those of us in the general chat, and thank you to everybody joining us on Twitch and or Kick and or YouTube and or anything else. CJ, I appreciate it a lot. So, generally speaking, PYRESWAP show out of nowhere. CJ, it's actually not out of nowhere. We have a schedule that is posted in the Discord. We do basically the same times every week. Yep, exactly. Whenever we do make a large shift to the schedule and make a big announcement about it, yeah, this is international game. Yeah, indeed. Yep, 100%. So very true. Welcome on X. Yes, welcome on X. I see that a lot. I appreciate that. And you know, speaking of which, international game. Would you guys believe something I learned recently? Okay. Do you guys want me to like talk about this cool story I heard yesterday, or do you want me to address the fact that the charts are? Like, do you want me to talk about the charts, or do you want me to talk about this story? Cool story? Do you guys want charts first or story? Okay, all right, just because everybody said story. The charts are flat again. We don't make it bought more, we make it sold less. Just to be clear, yeah. I'll just get this out of the way. I apologize. I don't even know why I asked. I figured you guys wanted the charts. I figured you guys wanted the charts. I was so ready to talk about this. Yeah, you basically what happens is like the whole system needs this weird kind of like a volume catalyst, and then you have like this runaway chain reaction of like a larger trend, which then gets speculated on by you guys, which then exponentializes it more. Does that make sense? But like on days where it's not going to happen, it's just going to kind of like chop upwards. It'll lazily dip as well. Like it just does this. Okay, cool story. Not that cool, kind of weird, but definitely cool enough in the sense that the PYRESWAP show might end up with a certain attention that I did not expect to have. Here, I'm gonna tell you guys, yeah. Okay, here we go. Here you guys go. You ready? All right. Bank of England taps TikTok influencers in quest to reach Gen Z. Guys, this is a real story. This is a real story. In fact, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, let me see if I can find something that's not paywalled. No, they're gonna wall me again. Am I getting walled? I can't even see it on my own screen. Okay. Oh my goodness, okay. Okay, Straits Times. Hopefully this doesn't paywall me. There's a website here where you can like bypass paywalls, but I don't feel like that's the professional move here to do. And arguably for whatever reason the see, this is an X post. This is probably what I need to do. Okay, Bank of England taps TikTok influencers in quest to reach Gen Z. This is from October 5th, 2024. You guys, like, again, this is real life. Okay? Hours after cutting interest rates for the first time in 4 years, Andrew Bailey made his debut on TikTok. It was a cautious foray for the Bank of England governor into a social media platform known for dance battles and lip syncing. Rather than attempt any such physical feats, Bailey got out of his comfort zone by sitting down with a personal finance influencer to explain monetary policy to a younger generation increasingly suspicious of central banking. He even abandoned his blah, 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 blah. Okay, we can read full story. See if Bloomberg walls me. No, they're going to wall me. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not going to sign up for a free trial today. But, here, I'm literally going to, I'm going to open this up on X, on Twitter, as it were, and see what Twitter allows me to do. Maybe they'll fucking hit me with the wall. Okay. Okay. This is basically the story, guys. This is basically the fucking story. Do you guys get it? Look at that. And here's Bank of England on TikTok. Or no, sorry, this is a hashtag. But I guess this maybe is an actual account. Oh, man. Okay. Anyways, guys, do you guys know why this is bullish? Do you guys know why this is bullish in its own way for PYRESWAP? Can you guys connect the dots? It means, guys, there is value in talking monetary policy on TikTok. Would you guys agree? Would you guys agree? This is like an easy conclusion to arrive at. You guys follow me? You guys follow me? Guys, do you know of any show that happens 4 times a week, has an extremely brilliant host, that has a colorful amount of outfits and an amazing set with a great whiteboard that talks about monetary policy that will soon get chopped up into TikTok shorts? Can you guys think? Can you guys think of any like show like this? Can you guys think of any type of content? Close. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I think Market Mondays, we talk about the Fed like every Monday. Would you guys agree that we talk about the Fed like every Monday on the PYRESWAP show, virtually? Like a little bit? Yeah. So anyways, the point being is that those video clips of me actually talking about monetary policy, and naturally Gen Z has no, Gen Z is growing up, well I guess they're already adults now, or like half of them are at least, and literally inflation is like the major theme of the economy they're growing into as adults. And very few people understand inflation. And this happens to be something that ends up talking about inflation and kind of breaking it down into like TikTok-sized clips. You follow me? So what I'm saying, you guys, is that when our content ends up getting factory produced and pumped out on TikTok, who knows? Maybe the Bank of England itself will be backing PYRESWAP. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, the fact of the matter is that like I think people that talk about monetary policy, on TikTok and kind of explain it, it kind of implies there's a huge audience for it there. Does that make sense to you guys? Because if the Bank of England is getting on TikTok to talk about it, that means that they think that there's value in it. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys follow what I'm saying? Like the Bank of England, for those of you know, is the UK version of the Fed. Do you guys get it? So like it would be like the US Fed wouldn't do it though, because TikTok is like Chinese or whatever. But yeah, the Bank of England is now on TikTok. That's all I'm saying. And we, the PYRESWAP show, we might be one of the few little type of content channels, I guess, the shows that actually talks about monetary policy in a way that can get condensed to TikTok-sized components. Make sense to you guys? Oh, I agree. Yeah, Yellen would probably be great on TikTok. Whatever. But anyways, there's value in talking monetary policy on TikTok. So, brilliant. Yes, brilliant. There was, electronic, back in early 2023, I think, when AI was like a thing, they had this like Janet Yellen Balenciaga series. Did you ever see that? It was just like Janet Yellen, but like as this incredibly ridiculous Balenciaga fashionista. It was fucking amazing. Like, cause she already has some interesting outfits, and they just like took it up to another level. So if you guys Google like Janet Yellen and Balenciaga, you might see it. Anyways, yeah. So I'm just bullish. I just learned, like literally less than 24 hours ago, that the Bank of England is now interested in getting monetary policy talked about on TikTok. I don't know who's going to be a better person. Yeah, I don't know. I need to start wearing those more ridiculous, Balenciaga outfits on here for sure. We'll fucking get there, okay? Anyways, yeah, okay. That was the cool story, guys. That was the cool story. Are you guys as excited as I am? Are you guys making those connections in your head? You guys, is it all lighting up here? Yeah, when moon. Yeah. I guess as soon as we start on TikTok. Speaking of which, we have a YouTube video on Friday. Yeah, guys, PYRESWAP will be covered by YouTube on a YouTube channel on Friday. It's just part of an ongoing relationship we have. Yes, so we do have a YouTube video dropping on Friday. Who knows? Who knows? Make sense? We possibly also have another content creator coming on board for PYRESWAP. So we might have somebody who has a 5-figure following just become like a full-time content creator on their own platform, and they just become like a PYRESWAP evangelist. That kind of is that's an idea that's been floated at least, and yeah, more concrete stuff about more concrete stuff about that soon. Yeah, and by the way, we have Reddit training today. So naturally, our marketing, which by the way, we have the most amazing Reddit strategy ever. I'm probably going to step it up with the Reddit training and do it like 3 to 4 times a week. So yeah, so the Reddit training, we'll be doing it twice a week now. I'm going to keep doing it random times. I'll probably schedule them all. And the whole goal is to increase the amount of participation we can get into the Reddit strategy. Does that make sense to you guys? Make sense? Yeah. So again, we don't need even that many people into the Reddit strategy, but like once the Reddit strategy starts operating on its own, it will literally drive a shit ton of eyeballs. In fact, there was actually a comment. There was a comment written on. There was a comment written on one of the last Reddit posts, and it was literally like a Reddit strategy P2. Like they literally almost took the idea of P2. They answered the shit out of the question. They wrote it so long, and then like it was like a 6-paragraph answer, and then like in paragraph 7 they casually mention a project, and then in paragraph 8 they go back to like their general conclusion and they end it. And I'm like, wow, it's like a really high effort P2. But what it implies is that somebody else also kind of knows this kind of strategy concerning how to slide a mention in on a very, very high eyeball post that gets it actually read. Does that make sense to you guys? So, by the way, we only have more data points on the Reddit strategy's efficacy. We just have to keep at it. These awareness-generating activities, they have to be happening all the time. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, so we have them happening like intermittently, but it's like it's only going to happen when they're happening all the time. Are you actually going to have results? Are you actually able to like stochastically break through to this higher phase of operation? I hope that makes sense to you guys. Yeah, like it's like working out too. It's like exercise. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like it's not about just exercising once. You know, you have to have like a frequency of doing it. Does that make sense to everybody? Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Anyways, the ultimate minute. Do you guys want me to be quiet while you guys are snipering over this yield? By the way, there's this book that I just got done finishing. I finished it this morning. And it's called Confusion Day Confusions. And it's by Joseph de la Vega. And this was a description of the stock market and the options market in Amsterdam, 1688. I want you guys to know something. This book is only 42 pages long. So I think that like I literally finished it in 2 sittings. Does that make sense to you guys? Like literally I started the first half of it probably like 3 weeks ago, and then I finished the other half like this morning. The fact of the matter is though, this guy Joseph de la Vega, he paradizes the way that the exchange behaves, but the fact of the matter is that human nature hasn't changed at all, and he's describing these type of derivative markets that still exist in DeFi today. So like the type of behavior you end up seeing like as this natural aggregation, everything you're seeing right now in Web3, it's the same rehash of the type of human nature that was in the options market of Amsterdam in 1688. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. This is 42 pages long. Like later on, I might even literally like start sending it out as a fucking prize. If we ever have a fucking PYRESWAP merch shop, we'll probably have actual books in there. Yeah. Fantastic, Alessio. Yeah, anyways. Yes, possibly a Friday AMA or a Friday YouTube video or a Friday AMA on YouTube. Not on our YouTube channel, on a YouTube channel with 5 figures. More on that later. I'll definitely announce it when it happens. We might have another Twitter KOL becoming like a full-time. And thank you on YouTube about everything with Marty. I appreciate the comment. Thank you. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to you guys? Yeah. Again, the consistency in marketing is what matters. Do you guys know what I mean? The consistency in marketing is what matters. Anyways, I don't want to beat that to death. I think that you guys understand that. But the goal is, again, like I want you guys to understand something. You're never gonna hit a fitness goal you will not hit a fitness goal by dabbling with exercise. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys understand this conceptually? Like, you will not hit a fitness goal by dabbling with exercise. Do you guys understand what I mean when I say dabbling? Does dabbling translate, for those of you who speak English as a second language? Does dabbling translate? Cheating, Maddie, it means more like you're just kind of like trying things out. It's like more like it's a very non-committal experimentation. There you go. Non-committed experimentation. Yeah. Half-hearted. You're kind of just experimenting. Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah. I don't know if that GIF makes sense. It kind of makes sense, like dabbling. Dabbling is like you're just kind of trying things out here and there. You're kind of being a tourist. Does that make sense? Dabbling is like a tourist. And I appreciate the response. Okay, so what that means is, by the way, same concept. I'm gonna write this in red. You will not hit a exposure goal by dabbling with what? Marketing. Make sense to you guys? Right? So the fact of the matter is, I know that everyone's like confused. Is like, are they marketing? Are they not marketing? We are in fact building and training and creating the systems and operations that will make marketing happen all the time. Right? Some of it requires human participation. Yeah, in fact, all of it does. Does that make sense? But it's from making these things automated and systemized and incentivized that we actually move the needle. Does that make sense to you guys? Does it? Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I think a lot of Web3 projects, they think about like the type of expenditures they need to make in yeah, there you go. It's definition number 2, Alessio. Definition number 2. So for those of you in the Discord general chat, and that screenshot, we mean the second definition. I guess the first definition involves the duck thing happening there in that little kiddie pool. But yeah, like literally like partaking in a superficial way. That's the dabbling does not ever move the needle. Like you have to be committed to the process. Make sense to you guys? So the stuff that we're talking about, it actually does happen over time, and I hope you guys see that. And I think we're very, very close to having our awareness generating activities happening automatically as well. Happening consistently. All right. If you're waiting on a DM from me, I do apologize. I have like 17 people waiting for a response back. I haven't forgotten about you for sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Who has a question? Yeah. I can, in fact, as backup, get to teaching more of how finance works. Make sense to you guys? If nobody has a question? Yeah. Because other than that, other than the fact that we might have some YouTube drops coming, we might have some, we might have a content creator coming on board, as it were. And other than what I've talked about already, I'm just going to get into the fucking textbook then, yeah? Okay? All right. I feel like I rushed through all the cool stuff I wanted to talk about. Are you guys now used to me talking at this fast pace? I'm going to go back into ratios again. Ratios make numbers meaningful. Let's go back to this concept. Okay. Who here can actually explain this? Oh, the old golden ratio, as it were. Yeah. Ratios make numbers meaningful. Do you guys understand what this means in its essence? By the way, if I talk too fast, please say so. Sometimes I just get excited and I have no idea how fast I'm talking. Speed is fine? Okay. So ratios make numbers meaningful. I'm going to give you an example here. So whenever any number is mentioned, like any number at all, it is essentially meaningless if there isn't some sort of reference or anchor or contact. Does that make sense? Or context. Like meaning or like comparison or anchor or context. So what that means is like the number 3, right? This by itself is meaningless. Does that make sense to you guys? And the fact of the matter is, you really can't like instinctively teach this idea to a human being if you don't give them an example of the concept. Does that make sense? Oh, well, astrologists are also using references, right? You're talking about numerology? Yeah, but numerology is still using those references. Oh, we have more emojis? We have more emojis? Yeah, so even astrologers, I think, would yeah, we'll see. We'll see. 3, like, if you don't add, like, some numerological thing or you know, what was that thing? Yeah, there's also religious things. But the fact of the matter is, like, this right here, if you're not talking about, like, 3 apples or 3 minus 2 or like 3, like, I would even describe this. Racially number means to have a context, like 3 apples, or 3 minus 2, or 3 to 5. Does that make sense? Like this relationship here, it can be expressed a number of different ways. So when you talk about 3 to 5, it's like, okay, do you mean 60%? Do you mean 37.5 compared to 62.5? Does that make sense? When you mean 3 minus 2, you mean, okay, you mean like 2/3 of one thing getting pulled away, right? And 3 apples, like, oh, you're talking about an object. Does that make sense to you guys? So anytime like a number just by itself, if you don't create other numbers there, it has like no bearing or context. Does that make sense? Because the fact of the matter is, if we started from the number 1, and then we went to number 2, and then we went to number 3, and then we went to the number 4, like, all you really have here is that, like, this means something singularly. This is double that, this is triple that, and this is quadruple that. It just turns out that quadruple that is also double of a double, right? So you end up with these other meanings, these other relationships between them, right? However, if you're not talking about a thing, like if you're not talking about a thing, and you're not talking about any other numbers, there really is no 1. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, imagine if you were like a Paleolithic hunter-gatherer and somebody was trying to explain the idea of 1, and it's like, I've never seen 1 of anything. And and then being like, oh, well, we only have this one river, we only have this one sun in the sky, right? Like, it's very, very hard to really think about singularity. It's like singularity. Like, well, I don't even know if that's the right word to use. But the idea of something as being by itself. They've never dealt with, like, a human, right? If they saw a certain pack of animals, they might see, like, oh, there's a bear. It's like, is it just one bear? Because, like, the quantity now applies to the fucking context of it being a bear. If you came back to the village and you're like, hey, in the woods I saw 3. That would be 3 what? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? 3 what? What did you see 3 of in the woods? Think about how many things you could possibly see in the woods that have 3. Elves, yeah. Elves, witches, trees, bears, yeah, birds, stones, yeah. But do you guys get what I'm saying? Like 3 what? Because like if you don't assign something. If you don't assign something, right? And by the way, ratios make numbers meaningful. Why is somebody mentioning that they saw 3? Because normally, if someone mentions 3, it implies the abnormality of it. Do you guys understand? Yeah. Like, hey, I saw 3 in the woods. Like, well, do you see 3 in the woods every time? Because if you did, you would stop mentioning it, right? It doesn't have any significance there, right? So, ratios make numbers meaningful. It makes them significant. Across the board, not just in finance. So, like, someone mentioned astrology before. The numbers 12 and 13, right? They're a big deal in astrology, right? Because you have like the 12 houses of the zodiac, and you got the 13 months, right? The 13 lunar phases. Yeah. Right? These numbers are also associated with like male and female numerology, correct? 12 and 13. Yes? I know at least 2 of the people I'm talking to know about this. Lithium. Oh, is that like a... Hey, it is what it is. I believe 12 is the male one and 13 is the female one. Yeah, but actually, I don't really care about this, to be honest. Actually, you know what? We might have some of this in the lore of PYRESWAP later. But anyways, ratios make numbers meaningful. So, first things first. What is the price of Bitcoin today? Can anyone tell me? Let me pull up CoinMarketCap right here on my tab. And I click a little refresh. 62K. 62K. But yet, all of you guys are missing the most critical component of that number you're writing. Which is what? Exactly. This S with the slash through it. Which really means like Spanish real. Did you guys know what this means? It means Spanish real. But the point being here, we're looking at 62.3 thousand dollars. Exactly, CJ. So when we talk about this 62.3K, what we're really saying is it's 62.3. I'll put it out full length. 62,391 compared to what? Compared to 1. Do you guys understand that? Yeah, dull hairs. So do you guys understand this here? That this here is a ratio, effectively. It's an implied ratio. Everybody follow me? Oh, lithium's element 3? Okay, I thought it was... Yep, I believe you. Okay. So... the crypto summer and the crypto winter problem. Like, I want you guys to understand something. The bullishness of crypto, like the true bullishness narrative, in my opinion, of crypto is not that all-time high keeps going up, but rather that the lows keep going up. Oh, and I see that we have 41 on the fear and greed index here. Do you guys understand? The winter lows of crypto keep going up. Yeah, higher lows, exactly. Like higher lows actually shows the resilience of it. Because it's not the fact that crypto can boom in the summer. You guys can look at Deck Screener right now, and we can go look at regular that, and you can see these fake-ass projects. Here's one at 2 million% in 24 hours. 2 million% in 24 hours. Let's see what happens if you click it. And it's 2 hours old. You guys, it's 2 hours old. It's got $500,000 in liquidity. They already are calling it a market cap of 2.5 billion. Do you guys think this is a real project? 2.5 billion? I don't know. They literally, this is a 2 hour old liquidity pair. Yeah, somebody must have got in. Somebody must have got in. You know, by the way, you might have heard me say this in the past, that the best marketing is green candles. I want you guys to know that meme coins might have ruined that. Yeah, does that make sense to you guys? This also has a volume of 500,000 compared to this market cap of 2.49 billion. So let's actually take a look. This token right here, and we do Cheems, and let's say we copy this address, and we search for this token. Is it possibly in other pairs? No, it's just in this one pair. Okay, yeah, this is a fake ass fucking project, you guys. Holy shit, this might be the fakest project I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a faker project. This has a market cap higher than, let's take a look. 2.5 billion. Let's take a look, guys. Okay, this has a fucking, it already has dog with hats market cap. Like, I'm not even, like, that's crazy to describe dog with hat as, like, this is the real thing. Immutable X is higher than Immutable X. Stellar Lumen, almost as high as Stellar Lumen. It's higher than Aave. Yeah, higher than Hedera. Higher than Arb. Yeah. Again, the fakest project I've ever seen in my life. Holy shit, guys. And you can see right here, buyers against sellers. It's bought at all the shit. There's 1,127 makers. Yeah, like also the volume is being the exact same as the liquidity. That also kind of implies that, like, well, it is. Oh, Lesio, definitely higher than 2Share. Yeah. But like, they probably are just the founder's money. Does that make sense? Like, literally, this is somebody who probably made $1 million with a meme coin in the past, and they're like, I want to launch a meme coin and then put my entire million behind it. And that's probably what they did. They just happened to fucking also, what did they do? By the way, there's no website here. There's just a Twitter and Telegram. You guys see that right here? Twitter and Telegram. Yeah, no website. No website. I wonder, guys. There's no website. Yeah. Anyways, I wish them a lot of luck, and I hope that there's not too many newbies getting suckered in this. This is probably the fakest project I've ever seen. Yeah, Jabri, good luck. Tell us how it works. Yeah, tell us how it works. Tell us how it goes. Anyways, there you go. The fakest project I've ever seen in my life. But that's what I mean. What was I talking about here? We're looking at PyroFan a second ago. Anybody can make like this new all-time high. Does that make sense? Like, you now have this all-time high for this 2 hour old project that now has a $2.5 billion market cap. 2.5 billion. And it's not the fact that that token can imply that it's up 2 million%, but rather that projects that actually last longer than a fucking season, their market caps and their prices keep going up as well. Does that make sense? Like, the market cap survives these downturns. Does that make sense to you guys? By the way, we've also survived the downturn, haven't we? Right? Even if it wasn't like a true crypto winter. But the fact of the matter is, the entire paradigm of summer to winter, which by the way, you guys might have seen I drew that with a fucking colon, is a comparison. What is it a comparison of? Ratios make numbers meaningful, right? So summer to winter is its own ratio. Does that make sense to you guys? Summer to winter is its own ratio. Do you guys understand this? The entire paradigm of summer to winter is subordinate of, what is it? Yeah. Crypto to fiat. Yeah, exactly, ZeroCax. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, without differentiation. Right? So the entire paradigm of summer versus winter is subordinate to crypto against fiat. Does that make sense? But the fact of the matter is that nobody believes or nobody's really designed, and I'm bringing it right back to talking about PYRESWAP. The entire paradigm of summer versus winter is subordinate of crypto against fiat, right? But like, if you take fiat, yeah, CJ, they're not going apeshit about it either. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like literally like, yeah. Everyone's now over it, yeah. And CJ, this kind of implies, something about human nature and like novelty. One of the reasons that we have an epoch system in the PYRESWAP, in the GPSE, is because the epoch system is constantly running as an event trigger. Does that make sense to you guys? It's constantly an event trigger. In future phases, there will be other events. Yeah. There'll be other events. Yeah. 142 transactions on the TE. Brilliant. Is that good? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying. It's an event trigger, though. So what I mean to say is that there's more and more reasons to pay attention to something new happening. Because the goal here is to make it so that there's always, through the combination of things, this type of refreshingness to the project. Does that make sense to you guys? So, like, people, some people love the incantation. They play 4 times a day. Some people, like, they haven't played it even more than that. Now, ZeroCax, vibrattility, I'm just talking about how it's not stable and it's not volatile. Arguably, the price action right now is kind of vibratile because it's just kind of like, it's just kind of chopping in a lane. Does that make sense? It's technically probably in an uptrend, but it's just chopping a lane. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like other utilities for these tokens that changes like what you have to focus on. So, for instance, when we get back to the meeting threshold, the epoch system there's 2 things the epoch system right here already triggers. Well, yeah, Jay, exactly that. This is all designed for the degen. This is like PYRESWAP is designed to satisfy the degen's craving to be a degen without ruining them. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, I designed it, how can I make this as degen as possible to the benefit of the degen? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So, right now, transformation of epoch, this does 2 things. And I mean, this is just PYRESWAP. We can talk about that does 3 things too, but yeah. Technically, you can say that TE on PYRESWAP. Okay, we'll say 4 things. We'll say 4 things. Okay, GPSE, the whole GPSE. And I don't mean a single epoch system. Who here can tell me what the 4 things that happen from epoch transpirations in the GPSE as a whole, including tomb forks? Gratuity is actually not one of them. Yeah, gratuity happens whenever somebody claims from Genesis. Yeah, gratuity, by the way, that won't be here. That won't be here after Genesis either. Like gratuity, yeah. Did I not answer this question correctly? Did I not ask it correctly? Okay. Transpiration of epoch. 4 things that can happen. No, like events. Okay, the obvious one is the incantation. Okay? Make sense to you guys? Yeah. Alessio's correct. Yes. Mead refills. The incantation. Mead refills. What else? Events. Not things that people are doing. Like grand events. Things that people are waiting for. It affects them. Not even that, Zonic. Yeah. Not even that. Yeah, that's really just part of the incantation. GPSE as a whole, including tomb forks. Can anyone think of something that happens on a tomb fork where the fucking epoch transpires? Okay. Yeah. So boardroom prints. Okay. And then also bonds. Bonds issued. There you go. 4 events that are triggered by epoch systems. Does that make sense to you guys? Now, granted, you guys haven't seen a boardroom print since 2022, right? Me neither. But the fact of the matter is like these are the things that are happening all the time through epoch transpirations. Does that make sense? In fact, there's as many as 9 boardrooms, possibly 10 boardrooms. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you guys haven't seen boardroom prints since 2022? Yeah. Right? Bonds being issued. Yeah, Zero Kex, I know that you're not from the Tomb Fork scene, so it's fine. Yes, thank you on Twitter. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at 2 different chats. Yeah, bonds, boardroom prints, meter refills, and incantation. By the way, more to come. Does that make sense to you guys? So there's going to be even more things that are like events, like new things you don't understand, like things that are being created, okay? That are things that the transpiration of epoch will create. So what that means is, yes, later phases. We're not. By the way, we're nowhere near done with phase 1. Phase 1 also involves us launching ribs and hoggy and affogato. Does that make sense? Like we're not done with phase 1. But the fact of the matter is that those tomb forks will in fact have their own boardrooms and bonds, right? So point being, through these things happening, as new combinations of this happens in a single epoch, that's new novelty to you guys. Does that make sense? So first of all, did you guys know that the Phantom? Okay, did you guys? I'm gonna erase this real quick. Pyre Phantom and 3-ohm have the same what? Who here knows? Who here knows what Pyre Phantom and 3-ohm have in common? Specifically 3-ohm. Not 2-ohm and not Z-ohm, but 3-ohm. Does anyone know? Total supply? No. Do you mean TS is total supply? Is that total supply? No, that is and that would be too variable. Yeah, the total supply will be variable, and if you consider that Pyre Phantom is expanding right now, it would be false at the end of today. No, they have the same epoch schedule. Does that make sense to you guys? So, in theory, there is a future moment where the 3-ohm boardroom prince and the Pyre Phantom incantation witch fault fires the exact same time. Yeah, boardroom, yeah, the epoch times, right? You're not going to have meeting happen at the same time, right? unless it's for a different token. Maybe 2 ohm is below 0.8 when 3 ohm is at peg. Who knows? Yeah, and Jerry, what I'm saying is, this type of new combination of things happening at the same time is what makes novelty keep returning to the GPSC, right? Because while every incantation is different, right? Everybody would agree that every incantation, even though there's kind of a pattern, they all have their own uniqueness to them. Maddie and the channelers here, you guys are definitely seeing this now in data that every one is unique in its own way, but there is in fact a pattern to them as well. The fact of the matter is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like even with a trend, it's like, okay, but maybe something different will happen this time. Yeah, but JB, it gets easier with practice. 2 ohm, I think, is 1 hour earlier, and Z ohm is 2 hours behind Z ohm. So I don't fucking know. I think 2 ohm is to the east and Z ohm is to the west. Does that make sense to you guys? 2 ohm is to the east and Z ohm is to the west. I think 2 ohm is 1 hour to the east and Z ohm is 2 hours to the west. Yeah, Jabri. Yeah, and then arguably we also have like 9 boardrooms. So like you have no idea what's like, you actually have to like literally limit what you're focusing on. Yeah. And actually, Jabri, you don't need to be active for boardroom prints. Yeah, okay. Well, again, boardroom prints are actually not like active staking. Yeah, like that's in theory passive. Yeah, you don't have to like stay awake for a boardroom print. Yeah. In theory, the knights have to get good at masquerading to make the print happen. Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah. The fact of the matter is the knights need to get good at their job. There needs to be bannerets that are in fact a counter faction to you guys that get good at doing that. Yeah. Anyways, PYRESWAP and 3 on the same epoch schedule. Make sense to you guys? So the fact of the matter is there's a future epoch where this is happening the exact same minute. Like it's like, okay, do I focus on the fucking Incantation Witch Vault or do I focus on the 3 on boardroom, right? And most people are gonna like align with a faction or align with a certain game that makes the most sense to them because there's pros and cons to each of these fucking games. But yeah, the point of it is that like everybody's always looking for like that novelty, as it were. And the fact that these epoch systems can in fact cluster these things happening at the same time, that adds a new level of novelty. Because like, oh hey, I've never done it where both these things are happening at the same time before. During the first week of Genesis back in June, we had an epoch where like, you know, there was a huge amount of yield in the Incantation Witch Vault, but there was also a huge amount of profit on Metatrage as well. So like some people were thinking about Metatrage and some people were thinking about the Incantation Witch Vault, right? So like this type of novelty that there was like a bunch of money that could be made on both sides, that was in fact a very, very exciting time. It's like everybody was extremely locked in, as it were, right? Well, all I'm getting at is that in later phases, there's more things happening at the same time. I want you to know, getting good at it is learning what to ignore. Yeah, learn what to ignore. Yeah, like certain things you're gonna have to say no to. Yeah. Being focused on one chain might help you. Yeah. But it might not too. Anyways, okay, let's see. By the way, to answer the question on Twitter, FORM is in fact the rapport acronym. You might be thinking of FORCE. Yeah, FORM has nothing to do with GPSE, like PYRESWAP, or Web3. It has more to do with people skills. FORCE, does anyone here remember what this stands for? Let's do a quiz on FORCE before we wrap the show up. Force? Yeah. Anybody? Where's Zonic? Is Zonic here? Facilitation, yeah, that's correct. I'll draw it up here. Origination, yeah. R, C, and E. Anybody? It's okay. This is actually a bit of an advanced thing. Reclassification, it's correct. C is consolidation, correct. And elimination. Raccoon's the emergency. Resident Evil reference. Do you guys know what this is? Yeah. This is like the credit and debt life cycle of the GPSE. It could probably be called like the credit factory process or the credit factory sequence. Yeah. The credit factory debt sequence, maybe? Yeah. Have you heard this before, Maddie? Have you heard this before after all? Okay. So when we mean credit facilitation, can anyone describe to me what credit facilitation consists of in the GPSE? Zero Kex, that is the criteria for it to occur. But what is the actual, yeah, that's the catalyst. What's the effect? The print, yes, the boardroom print, correct. Yep, print, everyone, well done. Okay, locked in as fuck. After credit facilitation, what happens is debt origination. Selling for tokens, indeed. Selling the prints. Does that make sense to you guys? When new printed tokens are issued, this is new credit being extended to the system. Does that make sense? Extended to the credit association, extended to the members of the credit union. Making sense to you guys? Boardroom print, yes, correct on Twitter. Debt origination. Debt origination is in fact the sale. Yes. Maddie, we're not even there yet. Maddie, we're not even at that level, but you're jumping ahead of us, sir. Debt origination, for those of you who don't know, do you guys know the difference between credit and debt? Who here knows the difference between credit and debt? It's a very simple difference. Very simple. Do you guys know? Honestly, man, not far off. Actually, yes. Okay, Zero Kex got closest. Credit is what's available in the future. Like, credit is like the credit is debt that hasn't come into the presence yet. Does that make sense? Right? Debt is like what credit was in the future. Does that make sense to you guys? Sorry. Debt is what credit was in the past. Fuck me. I just talked about how simple it was, right? Okay, debt and credit are different parts of a timeline. That's the difference. Does that make sense to you guys? Indeed, yes. Past tense, future tense. Credit and debt Do you guys understand? Past tense and future tense. So credit is the possible debt that could be taken. Does that make sense? It's like the available debt. Because once you spend credit, you have originated debt. Does that make sense? Credit is the limit to how much debt can be realized, or should I say brought into the present. Does that make sense to you guys? So that's the only difference, by the way. This is the only conceptual difference. Just understand credit and debt are two different sections of the timeline, past and future, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Which one's the past and which one's the future depends on the context of whether or not the debt is getting paid off or whether the debt is getting loaned, right? Whether it's getting loaned or repaid. Does that make sense to you guys? But yeah, debt and credit, there's always two different sides of the timeline, right? So if you're borrowing money, you're taking credit from the future, right, and turning into debt in the present. Does that make sense? If you're repaying it, you're taking debt from the present and turning it into credit in the future. Does that make sense? Do you guys get it? Do you guys? Okay. That's the only, like, in certain like technical way, like in certain technical things, they might say that there's more, like a bank that runs as a business, they might have their own like industrial and niche way of defining it. But on a conceptual level, the only difference between credit and debt is future and past. Make sense to you guys? Okay, but like I think that one is probably something that could be turned into short form, to be honest. Credit facilitation, debt origination. So like, what happened here? Credit was facilitated and a boardroom print happened, right? Debt was originated, tokens from that print were sold. So imagine if you got issued a credit card and then you went on Amazon Prime and you bought a bunch of shit with it. Does that make sense? So that credit limit you had now has debt and now has a balance. Do you guys understand? Bravo. This next part here, debt reclassification. Debt is reclassified when it stops kind of being good debt. Yeah, we're not even there yet, Maddie. Yeah, we're not even yet. Before meeting. By the way, these are all these bottom ones are also debt. Debt reclassification is some type of criteria. Yeah, Twitter. Okay, we're definitely going in the right direction here on Twitter. As the price of the peg token of the boardroom falls, it's a debt instrument once it's out in the open market. Does that make sense to you guys? So all of the 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm, and frozen tomb and snow tomb and dibs that are in liquidity, that is all like debt right now. Does that make sense? Like the minute it left the boardroom, it was debt. Does that make sense? There's always a non-zero amount of debt. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Okay. Debt reclassification is a certain set of criteria that are met where the debt is no longer, there is no longer a high degree of confidence in this debt getting paid off. Does that make sense? Yeah. Jabri, you can think of it like good and bad, but that's, you can think of it like good and bad, but in the GPSE, there's two different reclassifications. So on the tomb fork side, it becomes bondable as soon as it goes below 0.99 TWAP. Does that make sense? Do you guys know that? Bondable. But it's not meetable until it's below 0.80. Do you guys understand that? Okay, so believe it or not, this debt gets reclassified from two different paradigms. So you have the way that it can be reclassified from the facilitator. Does that make sense? And then you have a way that it gets reclassified from the consolidator. Does that make sense? Right? Because here, it's arguably like, okay, it's kind of like this. Does that make sense? Like PYRESWAP does these three, and the fucking Tomb Fork does these three as well. Because they both do reclassification. I don't know what you're asking me, Maddie. No, Maddie. Consolidation is both of them. Yeah, bonding and meeting are both consolidation. Yep. Credit facilitation, debt origination, and reclassification. This Tomb Fork, does that make sense? However, it can get reclassified again when you're on PYRESWAP, because PYRESWAP can classify this debt in a different way. Does that make sense to you guys? Like you're getting a second opinion on the debt. PYRESWAP provides a second opinion for the debt of these tokens. Does that make sense? And why does PYRESWAP provide a second opinion? Because they consolidate and eliminate the debt in a different way. Do you guys understand? So reclassification is let's say we're talking about 3 ohm. 3 ohm dropping below 0.99 reclassifies it on 3 ohm, but when it drops below 0.80, that reclassifies it to PYRESWAP, right? So when we talk about this being a decentralized credit union, I want you to understand that this is like a federation bank. Like there's different departments in this bank, in this decentralized credit union. It's decentralized. Origination is, yes, okay. Facilitation is prints. Origination is selling the prints. The minute you sell prints, that's origination. Claiming is arguably not origination. It's just you claimed it. But when you sell the prints, Lesio, you've originated debt. As soon as you put them in liquidity, or even OTC sold them in theory. Okay? Reclassification is the TWAP changing. So the TWAP going below 0.99, that reclassifies it to the bonding desk. Going below, but if you held print, it would just be credit. Yeah, Jerry, if you held the print, it would be credit. Correct. You're keeping it in the form of credit. And this is where have you heard of braided liquidity, Jerry? Have you heard of braiding prints? Vaguely, okay. Braiding prints is how you keep it in the credit state and how you prevent it from originating debt. Braiding prints, CJ, is when you have share tokens from multiple boardrooms. Nope. Yes, indeed, Maddie, yes. Yeah, you're growing credit. Yeah, exactly. You're also, the deeper that credit goes as liquidity, you have the ability to keep debt above the more dangerous classification, which is meetable. Make sense to you guys? Okay, so reclassification, you can in fact just take your 2 ohm and turn it into 2 bond. Does that make sense? Correct, Javery, yes. Yep. There's no farm. Yeah, Javery, there's no farms, right? At least not like a Tomb Fork farm, right? Where you have like the 2 share getting printed, like emitted out. Yeah. There will be farms on PYRESWAP that have these tokens in liquidity, but they're not going to be like heavyweight farms, to be honest. Yeah, not like they are now. Like right now is like the heaviest weighting you're going to see for like the Tomb Fork tokens being in farms. Like there will be farms for them in the future, but like, actually, you know what? Right now, 0.1, that might be like similar to what it is now. But yeah, like they're not going to be like 700% APR farms for sure. Does that make sense to you guys? Remember Tomb Fork farms were like 300% or 400% a year? Anyways, yeah. Debt reclassification, debt consolidation. Reclassification is the drifting below the TWAP threshold. Consolidation is the actual act of meeting or bonding. The actual act of meeting or bonding. Make sense to you guys? So the users, meet or bond, this consolidates debt. Does that make sense? Elimination is when you turn the debt back, when you either eliminate the bad debt. Yeah, okay, you're eliminating the debt is what you get. So to bond getting unbonded eliminates the debt, and Pyre Phantom getting fucking smoldered also eliminates the debt. Does that make sense? Correct. You mean braiding at 1-1. Well, CJ, not only does it eliminate the debt, but it mitigates future debt. So it actually builds credit. So you're correct. You're in the neighborhood of being correct. Does that make sense? FORCE. This acronym doesn't mean shit right now because we're still at like TWAP of 0.07 or whatever, or 0.01 on our fucking mead coins here on Pyre Gas. But in the future, this will be a lot clearer because I'm gonna go over it. There'll be a fucking whole section of documentation, okay guys? A whole section of docs. We don't have this in the docs right now. I'm giving you a sneak peek of understanding PYRESWAP as a decentralized credit union. Understanding PYRESWAP, understanding the GPSE, understanding the greater PYRESWAP ecosystem as the world's first decentralized credit union. Yes, Maddie, basically. Yes, basically. In a nutshell, it is. Believe it or not, yeah. In the future, Maddie, there are other things that can reclassify it. There are other things that can consolidate it, and other things that can eliminate it. Does that make sense? So phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, they will have other RCEs. Does that make sense? Yes, exactly. And those TUs will RCE. Does that make sense to you guys? Other various RCE situations. Yeah. Some, like, not, like, when you guys get really good at understanding it as a decentralized credit union, yeah, there will be certain ones you want to avoid. Because, by the way, when you play for the Knights, and you're at PEG, you do not want meads to happen all the time. Meeting is like your bankruptcy option. Does that make sense? Right? For those of you who've had a credit card before, right, it's better to just pay the debt off however you can, as opposed to like declaring bankruptcy. Does that make sense to you guys? So bonding is like, okay, let me pay this debt off in like this more kind of like a more painful way, not even a painful way, but like, let me pay this debt off in like a more, in a less dramatic way. Does that make sense? Meatrage is a very dramatic way of paying off debt. Does that make sense? Or should I say consolidating the debt? So when meatrage happens, meeting crushes total supply. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly, Maddie. It's more conservative. It's more like you're not like slashing and burning, right? It's not like you're meeting is like an extreme measure. Does that make sense? Meeting is like you really fucked your debt up. You need to declare bankruptcy. So meeting is in fact like the bankruptcy option for this debt. Does that make sense to you guys? Yep. Whereas it makes more sense for the sake of your credit to not have to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes more sense. Yes, correct on Twitter. More diagrams in the docs as well about that. Meeting crushes TS. Does that make sense? TS permanently. Bonding only temporarily. Does that make sense to you guys? So when meeting happens, like can Pyre Phantom ever become 2 ohm again? Correct, Jabri. Yep. But not swapping. No, Jabri, not swapping for 2 bond. Issuing 2 bond. Because when you mean swapping, do you mean swapping on the DEX? No, I mean on 2 ohm finance. No, Maddie, in form. Yeah, so like Pyre Phantom can never convert back to 2 ohm. Make sense to everybody? Once you're in Pyre Phantom, you're not going back to 2 ohm. Oh yeah, but that's not the same thing, is it? Yeah. You can sell Pyre Phantom for 2 ohm, sure. You can metertrage it, but the tokens themselves don't go back to being 2 ohm. You can make your position 2 ohm again, but those tokens themselves, you've now burned them and they're permanently Pyre Phantom. So until Pyre Phantom gets smoldered away in the IWV, like, they're part of that fucking volume now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't create 2 ohm out of Pyre Phantom, whereas 2 ohm does create Pyre Phantom. Does that make sense? It's a one-way arrow there. 2 ohm and 2 bond, they can swap back and forth. Does that make sense to you guys? 2 ohm and 2 bond, they can literally swap back and forth. Pyre Phantom, once you're Pyre Phantom, you're bankrupt. You're never going back to 2 ohm. Does that make sense to you guys? So, when you're using metertrage, Maddie, that is a great question. The answer is yes, and they have more than that as well. They actually have braiding liquidity, which is even more useful than that. Yeah, it's braiding liquidity is more useful than that. Bonds being in liquidity is also useful. I would say these are things that we can get more into detail about when we're actually above 0.8 TWAP. Right now we're a little ahead of ourselves. But again, and we're gonna wrap this show up here because we're we're running extra. We're running extra. By the way, Reddit training next. Reddit training next. So anyways, meeting crushes total supply. Well, if meads crush total supply, what happens to boardroom APR? I'm afraid not, Zero Kex. Because do you know how boardroom APR is calculated? And Zero Kex, you're not from the Tomb Fork scene, so it's totally, I would not expect you to know. Decrease, correct. Why, CJ, why? Why does it decrease? I definitely think you should know this, actually. I feel like you would know this better than most people on this chat. By the way, great participation today, class. Yeah, I really feel like we're in it right now. Okay, not sure? Okay. Why do meads decrease boardroom APR? Boardroom print equals a percentage of the total supply, the expansion rate. Correct, Alessio. Yep, Maddie, correct. Correct, Alessio and Maddie. Correct on Twitter. Yep. So if the total supply, if 2 ohm becomes Pyre Phantom or 3 ohm becomes Pyre Phantom, and they can never go back to being 2 ohm or 3 ohm, then we have permanently decreased 2 ohm and or 3 ohm. Zero Kex, now you understand, yes. And the more frequently it doesn't meet. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is banking. Do you understand? So Zero Kex, in the future, the Knights have their own game. And the Knights have a game about delayed gratification. Does that make sense? The Knights have to manage credit and figure out what's being originated as debt and what can be withheld. Now, the good news here is they can claim their prints. By the way, you can claim a 2 ohm print, you can claim a 3 ohm print, and what can you do with those two tokens? If you claim some 2 ohm here and you claim some 3 ohm here, What can you do with those 2 tokens? Indeed, indeed. And that's called a braided liquidity pair, because we are effectively taking 3 boardrooms and you're taking those prints, and you guys know how a braid is made. You're always taking 3 and then pairing them into 2s. Do you guys understand? We call it a braid because of how it looks in the liquidity graph. Yep. So the fact of the matter is, how do you keep the total supply going up? How do you keep TWAP up? Basically, you have to take your boardroom print and you have to be willing to put it into a liquidity instrument position as opposed to selling it. Does that make sense? And Maddie, you're correct. You're correct. So believe it or not, you can also use that token against Bitcoin, against Ethereum, against Phantom, whatever the fuck you want. Exactly, exactly. And since braided liquidity is vibratile, it is in fact mitigating and resistant to impermanent loss, to cross lambda. Does that make sense to you guys? So when you braid these prints, they are arguably a pretty good vehicle as well. Does that make sense? It's just not so immediate. You have to keep it in liquidity for a while and allow it to collect yield over time. Now, one of the ways it collects yield, by the way, is from other people originating debt. Does that make sense? And Lesio, by the way, it's always okay to sell a certain amount. Yeah, it's always okay to sell a certain amount. Yeah, I think 25%, who knows? We'll figure it out. Hey guys, we'll determine that, we'll determine that math when we get the print, right? We'll determine that math when we get the print. Anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for coming to the PYRESWAP show on this fantastic Tuesday. More stuff. Yeah, by the way, it is real money. Like, it's real credit and it's real debt. So, like, I'm not trying to get us back to print and then, like, nobody's able to make money off of this. But the fact of the matter is that the money management is now in the hands of the user base and the community. So, like, you guys communicating with each other can, in fact, make yourselves as rich as real bankers if you take your job seriously. Because you are, in fact, doing real banking. And I don't mean you're doing real banking the way that a consumer or a fucking, like a random person gets direct deposit through ACH or whatever. No, I'm talking about you're doing the job of the banker in the bank. Yeah, like you're doing the job that bankers do. You are doing risk management, risk analysis. Does that make sense? You are, in fact, like, you're managing a portfolio, and this portfolio is, in fact, your position is just part of it. You're now managing the entire tokenomic system. ZeroKex, exactly. ZeroKex, this is why I say that you can still get share tokens back to 4 grand, 5 grand, 8 grand, 16 grand. Does that make sense? Share tokens can go as high as price proportional to the skill level of the members of the decentralized credit union. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you guys want to bring the GPSE into the top 20 market caps? It's very, very achievable if the members of the decentralized credit union get good at their jobs. Yeah, being honest. The managing members, but the members too. Make sense to you guys? Yeah, Reddit training. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to the PYRESWAP show. See you tomorrow. I think it's like around this time. You'll find it. Okay. Bye, everybody.